So we're holding on Tov Samach Hey. Yeah. So this is today is Kof Aleph Tamuz, Oil of Beis-21, Shir in Hemshech Tov Ayin Beis, Chelik Aleph, Maimah Diva Masro Pasha. Maimad Pasha Bamidbar Dibra Masro Vaya Etzli Omein Omud Tov Samach Daled and Tov Samach Hey. The beginning of Perik Reish Chof Tes. So we saw in the previous chapter, just very briefly, we saw that there were in the pasuk of Yeshaya Novik Yatzisa Pele. And then we touched it Kiasisa Pelet, Kiasisa Elef. We saw that Elef was Aleph base, the meaning of Aleph Bina. And we saw that was the Kavanah Chochma, how it shak to Bina, how it shak am Shochin Bina. And that's a mitius in a Chochma, which is Gilui. That's a rachis Gilui of the Esesphere. It's a kol in a Chochma is in Yediyah Gilui. Therefore we saw that even in Atzmutza is Borach. Chochma was in of Kaviyochel Yediyas Atzmusay. Well, that's a mocker for the in of Yediyas Atzmusay in the in of Neoim, ultimately in the in of Ilmes, and ultimately in the in of Neoim. And we saw that was that even though Chochma was Ayin from Beetle Amiti, we saw that it was Oyer, the Ilo Keser, which is a Beetle Amish Atzmi, a Keser is called Choishen. I saw that Davke Chochma in Yoni being Beetle, Derek Yediyah Davke. And so therefore we saw that Chochma was the union of the Aleph, it was Limud into Bina ultimately, because its union of being Gilui leads it eventually to, and we saw that the Tzur, the Ois Aleph, was the Ois Yud Lamaila, and then we saw the Kav, that was so that was the Emesa in our Chochma, the Etzem Nekusa Chochma. Then we saw there was the Kav, which was in from Midrash Chochma, and the Kav Atachtin was the union of Yesod Abba, which is already Nimshach and Mamshich, the Ashpur, into Bina. And the Chiddush of the pasuk was that all of that is called Pele. It begins with the statement Ki Asisa Fele, and then it teaches that Asisa Fele is the Inyan for Allah. So it means that all those madregas in Chochma, which indicate the rachis ha'is galas klapi mata, and the shefa of all inyanim milamayla lamata, etzem agilu, etzem ha'idiyah, all of that is really Pele. So we asked the Shara, how can anyone that's in of Gilui and Hamshocha and Limud into Bina, which is Atzaga, how can that be called Pele? And so we began with the Musik, and we mentioned very briefly that was due to the fact that in Chochma is Meir the Inyan of Shem Ma. And we saw that the Inyan from the Chochma, being as it is Koyach Ma, but the Inyan of Gilui, the Ma, therefore, that's what, even though it's a union of rachis Gilui, or that Ma Shebechokma, or that's what's Hoifig, Mahapach, as you might say, the union from Chokma into Pele, despite the fact that it doesn't alter it being the union from Gilui V'Am Shoch. So that was as it were the paradox of the Kilu Keful Ha'inyonin that we have to deal with. So he says, Ubiyu Ha'inyan Yesh Lahaktim Tchilo Inyan Shem Ma Mahu. What is the Inyan? And the Biyu of Shem Ma. What do we mean, Beklal, with the concept of Shem Ma, what we saw earlier, it's the Shem Avaya B'Milui Aleph and Davke. The Hinei Klolos Inyan Shem Ma Hu Lechaber Shnei Hafochim. An interesting idea, that the Inyan of Shem Ma, in Beklolos, its Inyan is to bind together and bring into, as it were, a Sholem and a Chibur Hafochim. Kemoi Chesed Ugvura, Oy Mashpir Uma, ומקבל. המשפיע ומקבל הן גם כן כמו ההפוכים זה מזה כנדע. זה well known that the Indian of Mashpia, his Indian is ein oret l'mayla makabel. The whole Indian of makabel is not inyanim le'atzmoi, no bitl, but kabbalah bilvad. The Mashpia is called Indian is the ribui ashefa, what he wants to give out of himself klapei mata. Therefore, those are two inyanim which are hafuchim ze mizeh. So it comes out of here that the Inyan of Ma is to be machaber and to join together and bring into one the Inyan of Afochim. So I have to say that the view of it is that not that we bring them into Afochim and we turn them into, as it were, a dover noisaf or dover acher. For example, we said if we're machaber chesed gvura, and we get a new Inyan which is called Tiferet. And it's mashmin tanir v'gam rova makaimes. The Tiferet is a new midah. Tiferet is a new inyan b'fnei atzmik. K'muvu in Likutei Torah bariyas in Pasha Kedoshim. Or there's a whole big beer in the inyan of Tiferet. So we have to say that when he says that the inyan of Shem Ma here to be machaber hafochim, he doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that only Shem Ma I get Tiferet. That's another Inyan, there's a shot to the Kavim Tzoi, there's a shot to Oidin Yonim. Now, what he means is that the Inyan from Shema has in itself an ability to bring two Afochim together, that even though they remain somewhat in their own entity, what they are, of instead of being Menagdim and Puyel Bahafuchias Zeh Lazeh, they find a way to kill, as it were, act together in a way that there will be mashlim a kavona klolius or a dover rotzui biyachad. Or not that they lose their identity. Now, I have a reason why I'm saying that. And he goes on to say now, in other words, the two ways that we can understand the idea of achiva bein afochim, as I just pointed out. So we have to say that the pur of Shema is in the second oif. V'zehu, he says, the Odom begimatria Ma. Odom, a mensch, and the word Odom has the same gematria as Ma, v'yadua, the Odom hu p'nus iskalulas ha'afochim. The Odom has in itself the interaction and the intertwining, as you might call it, of many opposite inyanim. Although it's not a pshat that we say that the Adam is just one Inyan. Moved on, we call Adam, we call him Metzias Adam, and he's a new Midah Klolius Atzmis, which is called Adam. Maybe in certain Inyanim. But as we look at him as Adam, then the mile of the Adam is that he has in himself all of these pratim and all these Inyanim, and Afu Pikain, they all find a way of working together in peace, and in not only in peace but in siyuya zelo zeh. And that's the Inyan of the Ischavasa Fochim that there is in the Odom. Not that he's just one Metzias Atzmius that's koilo b'derakilo klolius Atzmius at kol hapratim. He's got all the pratim b'toichoi. That's what's mashma from what he brings down from the Rambam. It's a tova yedua, but if you study it carefully, look at it. What are the hafachim? Avayira? Yeah, not only Avayira, we'll soon see. We'll soon see what he means. Yeah, in the Chanami of Avayira, we see he has in himself in Yonim where he can exercise strictness, or he can exercise chesed, or he can exercise all sorts of Yonim, and all of them add to a what you might call a given goal, without necessarily cancelling one day the other. So he says, like the Kamishkos Rambam, Shmina Prochim Shaloi. But that's well known, the famous Hakdoma that the Rambam wrote to the Piruch That's another Hakdoma. He wrote a Hakdoma to the whole close Pirush HaMishnayos that he wrote. That's called the Hakdoma to the Pirush HaMishnayos. But he also wrote a more specific, long introduction to his Pirush on the Piruch. And that's called the Shmina Prochim. is divided into like 8 main chapters. So over there he writes, so hefresh bein ha'odam l'chol ha'balei chayim. I'm sorry, now I'm getting myself confused here. You do the Adam, who findet das Kalos hafochim, שזהו ההפרש בין האדם לכל הבעלי חיים. וכמו שכתוב הרמב"ם, בהשמין הפרוחים שלו, לכל הנמצאים יש להם פועל אחד, או יפש פיולים. אבל האדם משתנה לכמה פעולות. הרי שהאדם כולל מכמה הפוכים. A commission is liu perekuf samach. So he brings over there that we find that it's brought down that certain animals are considered. He says the oirev is considered an avzori, and he brings over there the Rambam that the nesher is considered a rachmoni, and he brings over there other animals that are considered teirofim with the avzorim beyoser. And he brings over there, certain reptiles, and certain birds, more mitzadach. To call over there, Rashi brings it to Chasido, Chasedasim, Taneho, and so weiter. That she does also to Chasodim, albeit with her own, but at least it's B'derech. And therefore, the Rambam bases himself on that we see that animals have midas, but they don't have different midas within it, and cause them to do different, almost completely opposite types of pu'ulas, which all come from the one being. They can do only one power. That's their Inyan equally, and they're not mishtana. Ve'ilu, what he tells over there is that the Odom, as in so different Yonim Hafochim, and sometimes he does that way, and sometimes he does that way. Latevus Ayin Masuya, and he can also sometimes act in a way that they interact or they join together, and sometimes they use a miktas mizeh, and sometimes a miktas mizeh. But the shleimus Ayin and the other ones that Laptavki always has to use a miktas of this and a miktas of that. Sometimes he does a Paul Sholem or a Paul Sholem, but even a Fochi. That's what the situation is Doirish, and Ali Deisa is going to achieve a Tuiva and a Matorah Amit is Ali Deisa. If it's the same Adam, the Berega he does that, and Berega Hasheni, which might be hours later, he'll do an Ayin Hofuk Mizeh. That's by the Balachim Nisht Lobanimta. So that was the Rambam, or no, but Commission's Bully, he'll Periku Samarov. Well, that's the famous chapter in Ayin, but it's one on. And this whole thing is one of the famous chapters. You remember we learned over there about Ach, Odom Kodme, the whole Inif and Ach, and there's Kuf Samar Zayin and Kuf Samar Ches, and there's a whole big section of about all the Inyonim when they get to Ach. So we see that the Ach is a tzir of two shamas or names, Odom and Kadmon. We saw that the Inif and Kadmon that was in the Ayin say how it was now Tzimtzum. Well, even though here it's already after the Tzimtzum, but again, like Gilui, he said there's not really any Shinui in the Etzim Hamshocha Adayin Tzor. The Ika changes in this Shem Odom. All the Inyanim how they were Lifnei Tzimtzum were all just Inyanim from Pshitas, the Hafshota Afilu Oibachinus Matzur Shofal. And that was all in there, that's the Sfiras HaGenuzah, the whole reason. Ve'ilu, after the Tzimtzum, in Odom, a Kadmon, we can't say that they're already there, but they're all Klulim and Achodim, Mufshotim, together, that they appear to be one, but really they are Ribui Pratim, which are all Mishkalalim, literally Mishpashtim, Mufshotim, from their own Matthias Atzmi, Mitzad Iskalas in the Kloliv Atzmi of Al-Chaponim, they're already there. Ve'ilu Koidem Tzimtzum, it was only what we call Efshorias HaMatzias Behechlet. And here it's also Efshorias HaMatzias. The emphasis is, but that's only the Gabi Lamatim Mimeno, or will not be Behechletius. Because Behechletius is already a Ayinim and Azish who get a Shamatzias. Al-Chaponim, what he makes that all the Inyanim are there in Ach. They're all there, and they're all Klulim or Betalim in the Etzem Madrega of Kadmon. Edifier, he got onto this whole idea that Odom was a makeup of many protim biyachad, and that all the protim are, including the immediate sin of an Odom, like we saw, is that when all the protim are there, and after became they're not say so one day the other, no mitzate, the mile of Odom, he's out to be mishtamish bekulam, even that he deals with them, but even shall beetle le kavana nidreshes bekolina. And that's what the Rambam is marich of the one of the whole inyonim in Pirkei Ovid. The meaning for Aish Chosid, what he calls over there, he says Midas Hatzidus, the Rambam says that a Chosid is also as asot mensch, that he's able to do all sorts of different inyonim, and he's able to be Puel, Pal, Erov, or Pal, Sheni, but he said Akol Lefi, Ha Shikul, Ha Piti, B'Tevus HaDova, B'Tevus HaRatzui HaDova, all I read it what he's mazbo the Inyan of Aish Chosid, because that's the Inyan how he's mazbo that the Inyan from Pirkei Ovid is Midas Chasidus, with the whole reason. That's how he gets over that to this whole Inyan. So we see the feast there, that the Inyan of Odom is that all the Inyanim are there, and they're even there in their identity, but they're all able to act in a way that they are not misnagin and not Afuchim Zela, even though Begolui, they look to be that way. And even though he might use one in that particular cow, so we think, he's that he works in that way. So the Rambam said that if he's an Amos of Chosid, he doesn't necessarily always work in that way. No, he can work in an opposite way if that's what is Nidrush, according to the Amos of Shikul, HaKoidish, what should be.
Doesn't the Rebbe Rashab explain in another place? I remember went in the yeshiva that this union of being this kav or this kav is the perfection of that is Avraham Avinu was ish chesed. Maybe it was matzavahim. Was
that's the beginning. That's the beginning of Kunshas Samaya. Over there he deals with the whole union that he was able to use Gevura. But over there, to a certain extent, you're right. You have a point, because ultimately we're going to get back, how does this all work? How's the Odom able to be like that? Because he hasn't himself the Inyan for Ma. And over there in Perik Beis in Gimel, because it's Ayin. That's what he says, that the Inyan is due to the Ashpo of the Moichin. Where does the Inyan of the Moichin, and all his midas come out after through Moichin, then he's able to be mechaven them in different ways. In other words, that if he just acts on a midah toivo, then that's called a midas behemias. That's what he writes over there. Even if he acts mamish good to other people, but he does it not mitzad the shlitas hamoichin, then he calls that a midah behemias. What to a certain extent,
Adam behemah.
Yeah, it's got a certain. Over there, he's talking more about the etam shlita of the moichin. Here we're talking about the koyach of Shema to be kilu mechaber. There is a certain similarity in the beer. Yeah. Says the Rebbe V'lochein Odom megematria ma. Yeah, the meaning the mensch in his etzem gematria is ma. The inyan Shema ulas is colorless v'yishabras ha-afochim. Over here the beer is not to make a whole new midah and a whole new metzias out of the afochim. Over in the afochim gufa to find a way that they will work together to bring to the proper inyan. V'zeu gam ken in a milgav ihu shem ma dehiu oirach atzila. And now we go back to the Rosh that we bought in Pascal Yahu, that he brings a whole series of statements about the spheres, about how they are, and then he says that that the stress of the Rei Yamina, the Rei smaller, and Tavaras Kufa, Nature of a Hay, Train Shaken. Then he brings a Lashon where he says that that's the Inif and Karkafta, the Tfilin he says, the Ihu Shem Ma, the Ihu Oirach HaAksilas. I'm sorry, Milgav Ihu Shema. That the pnimis of all that is the Shema, the innovating. The bifnim, Mikosa, is the Shema. And what is that? He said that is the way, the derech klodi of Atzil. V'hainu b'chinas oyer hakav, sho'oisa ais kalas be'esas filas d'Atzil. U'kamayma antu de kosher loin u'meyachid loin. Now over there in the Posik Aliyah, he talks about the cow. He says the Beiro, the whole thing, he brings the Lashenis indicating the cow. And then he says that what is the Pu'ula in Atzilus at a cow? He says that it's Makash Loina Umiyachid Loina, that it's literally binds between all the 10 spheres, and he's also brings them to a certain Yichud Zeba Zeh. In other words, from that follows that the cow, albeit he's only a cow Matumtam, and a cow means Adora Matumtam Lamadai, Le'ido Kisa is an Indian in the cow of Klolius Achmias, what he's able to cause a bittel b'shari spheres, but even that they are able to be mishkasha and even misyachid, even to join together in a certain yichud. What from that we see, and that's the lashon uirach. What uirach means, like a way of. It means the general way. That's the general mahalach, to use the word of uirach, of the inyan of Atzilus. But from that we see that even though it covers a specific hamshocha b'derech tzimtzum, oyer shalosh ne'at tzimtzum, nonetheless he's a kloli adayin legabi kol spheres, that he's able to be called the oirach, the general way of the whole inyan of Atzilus. So we find out that the Rebbe is going to be masbid that, but the famous moshe from the Mittler Rebbe in the Bir Azor, this is brought in many places. So he says, Tehine, the Esses Spheres, Eber Madregis Mudolis, Zeh Mizeh, Vein Hafochim Zeh Mizeh, the Mamish, even Hafochim, Chesed Ugvura, even in Yonim like Neitach Vahoid, having themselves certain Hafochim. He said, Va'akav, Umiyached Umechaber. He brings them to a ability to act in a way that they unite one with the other, and they must appear in a united and joined way.
And the Kav is something different from the spheres? The Kav is something different from the spheres?
Oh yeah, the Kav is different from the spheres. We're going to see that the Kav, the sphere is better Markadim. That's what the spheres are, BM. That's what the spheres are Kadim. We're talking about the Oyer, Mishlavish in the Kadim, and the Kav is a Oyer Kloli, which is Kilo, the Oyer, which is Miyached and Machaba, all these different Amshachas. He said, Tehine Akav B'Klau, as we've just noticed, Ochameshkosu B'Birei Azaya Pasha V'Isla, Maima Hazaya Al Posik Ki Shorim Darhei Hashem. The Birei Azaya over there brings a whole Maima of the Zoya, of this Posik Ki Shorim Darhei Hashem, to the end of which chapter is it? Shorim Darhei Hashem. Tzadikim Yehu Bom Poishi Mikoshlu Bom.
Shabbos Shuvah.
Yeah, משהו כזה. בנוישי אתה פוסק. Yep, אין נכון. So from that it follows that the Zohar Kodesh is makshe. How can you say the word derech in Inyonim of the Eibush? What a derech indicates a way which is leading somewhere. I mean, the Indian of Elakus is l'chara Maila mi derech. What's the shot to say b'klal derech in Elakus? And then he said, what's the Taish Yosha? Would that imply that there's maybe drochim which are not Yosha? I mean, what would that be? And what's the b'klal, the usage of such Inyonim? And then later on, the Zohar says, it's the Dakim drochim away Raisa, and the Cholila, somebody who's not Shema, Inyonim the way it should be, he can even have Kisholin in Inyonim or Raisa, and he can be Mi'avis the Kavona, against Arichas over there in the Zohar Kodesh. So the middle of Rabbi Kedar, he goes back to the Shorish Kol HaInyonim, and he says that the mocker of describing Derech in Elakuz is the Kav. That's the short is that we can talk about, and that's due to the inyan of the Tzimtzum, and the Kav is the first Gilui Eloki Le'achrei the Tzimtzum. And the Tzimtzum was a Mokum Ponu, and he talks about the Rishimu, the whole, what you might call, picture is described very briefly over there by the Mittler Rebbe. So he says, Kach, Yishorim Darech Havaya, Dakav, Ukemoshu, Derech Hagodel, Hanimshek Me'er Ein Sof Baruch Hu, Derech, Oirech. A klol is, and he compares it to a main way, like in a Medina, that's what you might call the main road, the Derech HaMelech. Hanimshek Me'er Ein Sof Baruch Hu, Yesh Drochim Ketanim. And there are smaller ways, Shuam Shocher Lekol Sfira Befrat. And he's got a whole moshel over there, two Meshorim. And if I'm not mistaken, the Rebbe is good in a place where the Rebbe is Mechalik between the two Meshorim. What is that? Moshel Be'ika Mashmiya, what's the other one? Mashmiya. This was about the moshel of the ways, of the roads. And then he brings a moshel from a tzina, from a river. So a river, you can't get into the Kelim, plus we have to take like an irrigation channel from the river, but generally the way it's done is that they take a general channel, and then from that they take off minor channels into different parts of the fields, and for different plants and different things that they've got. So we see there are two Mesholim over there, the truth is. And here the Rebbe is he's kilo Mesholim, the two Mesholim biyachad. Although domani that there is a chiluk board. What is the chiluk, the two, you know. Okay, the Isa Beit Chaim, the Amshochas Akav, whom you are in safe Shlifneya Atimtum. In other words, the cow is Dafke Nimshach, or Boikeya the Timtum. It's the Amshochas of the earth, Shlifneya Timtum, comes back, but it's Nimshach Alidei, the Koyach of the Timtum, which is the Rishimu, and that causes a Hagbola and a Melomata, Bizdin, of Gvul, Kipshuta in the cow. And so, over the Pnimius of the cow is there in social Naya. Yeah, Achimtum. But who Kein Tziner Animshach Me'er Ein Sof. You know, he uses the word previous in Drochim, now he says Tziner. Animshach Me'er Ein Sof. Okamoi Tziner HaMakaleach Mayim Me'anahal. It brings the water into the field, from the field. The Me'anaha Atzmei Shalam Lemalish Kelim. The ultimate purpose is to reach buckets and then pour the buckets on the nowadays there are probably other ways of doing it. If you try to fill your kelim from the nahar, you just get swept away with the kelim. Therefore, Kiim alidei atziner shebi ovroi b'shetach ha'oretz harihu mamale hakelim hanimtoim sfivoi. How does he do that? Who alidei tzinoides ktanim shenimshochim lechol kli befrat. In other words, that you got this main channel or tzinoir, and you got these smaller tzinoides that they lead, and that's where the kelim come into. The people hold kelim and they fill them, and then they take them and put them onto the plants. Kol chadle for minyone. We see that the nimshal for the kelim, and these kelim kipshuti stand and wait for the water, but between the in and the nahar, well, that's the urshel of neatimtum, that's the etzem oil which is sheitav, hakel. You have this union of a tzira kloliyas, and then you have tzinoidas protium, and then you have kelim. Well, for that is much better. The kav is albeit a kav metzumtzam, and he's already got himself the minion for gvul ultimately, and he's in for malamat with all those in there. Legabi each sfira b'meyuhad, he is a dayin kloli v'atzmi ha'v'yesa than the etzem hamaya in that particular sfira, which is kli. Or kamoikein, he says, who betugma b'chinas akav. Sheesh tzinoides protim, she'inam shoches eres protim.
The cow is just like the or in the Simsum.
Yeah, but it's not mamish there.
The water, the same water that comes to the river, is going to create the same water.
The pnimis of the cow is the Urshel Neatzimtum. But Begolo, he's not the Urshel Neatzimtum. Because otherwise I haven't achieved anything.
When it says it's it says the cow is the sinor, it's the pipe, but it's not the water that goes in the pipe.
Yeah. No. We mean the water in the pipe. We mean the water in the pipe. And the pipe is just the timtum. The pipe is just the quirk. That's the quirk which comes from
the same water in the water in the river.
Yeah, it's the same water, but it's metumtam, meaning that it's undergone a big change. In other words, it previously wasn't shy beklal to be mamshich even towards protim. Now it is. If I don't know, as I said before in Ak, But even though Ach has in itself, the primordialness of the Kadmon, well, it's already got the details there in a real way. Mashakin and the Earl of Neda didn't have that Beklal. You follow? The only thing we're trying to stress is that the etzem mocker of the kav is the Shlok Ne'atzin. There are certain nafkiminas, which albeit in our in here not so much, but that's certain nafkiminas legabi other inyonim. Amamel, יסדרו על ידי הצ'רנס הקטנים שנמשכים לכל פרטו, וכמו כן יש בדוגמה בבינס הקו שיש צינורס פרוטים שאין המשוכס אוירס פרוטים, וכמו אור החוכמה נמשך בצינור מיוחד ואור הבינה בצינור מיוחד. In other words, the kav is Ayin klali adayin. He doesn't have in himself chokma b'miyuchad and bina b'miyuchad. Today that he should be mashpia into chokma b'miyuchad or bina b'miyuchad, he's got to take a further kav metzumtzum mimeno. Well, from that we see that the kav has got in himself these inyonim, yesh lo latam, but there's still even for Now we're going to have to discuss that a little bit more. Exactly what is the nature of that type of presence of all the Inyanim in the Kav.
I thought we were in the middle of proving that Chochmah is the Inyan Kav, is an Inyan Klali, the Orach Hatzilus.
No, that's what we're saying. There isn't a Inyan Klali.
The Kav is not Chochmah, not Bina.
That's right. That's why it's Orach Hatzilus. It's a general Klal. From it we take off Protestika Hamshachas. We take from the Klal Protestim Hamshachas. What we try to point out when I get to Ach, and the Kavazuli Agili from Ach, is that all the Protim are there, but they're not Begolui als Protim. We're going to see a little bit further along, you'll say exactly how that works. And what the Tzinoros Protim are, that they take, as it were, that Prat that is there in the cow, but it's even mufshat adain in the cow, and they specificize it and bring it over into the sphere. You follow? That's the Bir Hador. He says, it appears over there in the Bir Yatza, yeah? That Shinoyres Protim ein Mikoirei Ha'oiros. In other words, you can't cause the cow. You can't call the kav mekoirei ha'oiros in the sense of what do we mean by mekoirei ha'oiros? Oiros, in the simple sense, means the oiros of how they already malubish in the kelim. That's when we say oiros in Atzilis, we mean the oiros which are already malubish in the kelim. So there's a state in the oir how it's not yet malubish in the keli, and it's a form of a mocker legabi that oir which is about to go into the keli. So himself he said that already in the proteas of that oil, which has already been, as it were, set aside, that's going to be the proteas of that oil, there's still even a gavoya yoter, where it's not mamish shayat to slapshas, but it's already megule, it's already got a miskale, or even because of that it is going to be shayat. The ilu the kav is still a Indian Klali V'atzmi, where all the protim are there, but they're not there in any real recognizable oifen, one from the other. And that's what he says that over there it would appear that they are a mocker of the Uros. V'hein l'mayla adayin mislapshas pekelim. Because if it was slapshas pekelim, then l'chorah, you could just go directly into the keli. Why do you need this extra tzinor? But that's mashma. The extra tzinor is not actually the entering into the kelim; it's the bringing of a water or of a amshocha from this closed tzinor, which will eventually be able to enter that keli, but it's still a mailamiyah keli. You have a b'pashtas, the right to that is that they obviously have some sort of controlling inyan on that tzinor prati, which opens it and shuts it when you get to the kelim. Because if it were just to flow, kolas man via tzinor haklali, then it would obviously be too much for the keli. So therefore, that's on that basis that it's mashmin the lashon of the Mittel Rebbe over there. If you look, what he's saying is that that's what the Rebbe is going to quote in a minute. That there are 3 kilo states in oil, three madregas or matzovim. There's a matzah the Erhatz Mamish Kloli Mudol Legamri Mi Lies Moke Elazin Proti. Then there's even a Moke, which is already shy too, but it's still only a Moke. And then there's the Etzem entry into the Kli. The Etzem is slavshas in the Kli, but that's another Bechina or Matzav in the earth. So these scenarios, according to the Hezbollah here, it's going to be a little bit complicated to give you another Hezbollah. Or to give you this Hezbollah, that seems that the middle point, or that middle aspect of the Oiris, well, that's the Tzina HaProti. That's what we're aiming at to say here. Hein Mokia Oiris, the Pirush, that they are the Mokia of that Oir Miyuchad, out still Lamaila Dayan Mislapshas Bekeli. Ve'achach Yam Shocha Vislapshas Bayakelim, Shazehu Oi Tzimtum. That's a further Tzimtum. In other words, what we're saying is that the Oir turns out of the main pipeline to go towards the Keli. It only goes a Tzimtzum of the actual entering into the Keli. Yeah, that's kilo a Tzimtzum Noisa. That's kilo Nocha Ayin. But Tomid Nimshach Ashefa Mimikoira Oiris Ela Oiris Umia Oiris Ela Keli. Now here Makoira Oiris, he means the Tzina Hagordel. Okay. And his Oiris, he means stam, but it means what he just called Mokeh Oiris, Haprati, and then the Oiris Ela Kelim. Those Oiris, they eventually go down and enter the Kelim. V'ayim Ashen is Boeli or Perekoftes, Sheish Gimel Madregas be Oiris. Like we were just quoting, Ha'ale. So here we're touching that on the calf. In other words, the way it is inside the calf is describable as terem Yizgale. It hasn't really come out into any form of Giloi. Habeis Kamoshu Mizgale Mim Koiroi Vagimo Kamoshu Mislavish Pia. So this picture that we have here, on that Indian of the Oiris Telem Shadis Galu, before there's been any Gilu in the Oiris, well, we're still talking the cow. That's the way they are inside the cow. But Ilu, right at the beginning of the Hebsher, it looks slightly different. I imagine is Bully you Perekoftes, Sheish Gimel Madregas Boiris, Aleph Oir Kamoshu Bim Koire Term Shadis Galu, base Bully you Pereklamat Aleph, Shamadrega HaBase, he a cow. Over there it appears that the Madrega base is the cow. And the Madrega Gimel is the Tzina HaProti, and the Amshoch into the Kelim is kilo like one Indian over there. The Lofia Mavua Khan, Yesh Loima, that Madrega base, Zeu, Shazeu, Atzinoidus Protim, and Imshochim in a cow. So here we see an interesting Indian, as the Rebbe said, that it all depends, Vimaretos. Was over there, such a Gereta. So over here, such a. Okay. In other words, over there, he was talking more about the Etzem Moke of the cow, how it is in the area and such. Because over there, in the beginning of the Hamshik, he talks about the Yesser Spheres Haganut. That's the tremendous Chiddush of the whole first chelik of the Ayin base. Even though we're still in the first chelik, but that's one of the big moves at the beginning of the whole Hemshire, that you've got the Yesser Spheres Haganut. It's not like Amavoy in Parsha Noach, in Torah Oyer, that they are Bo'ilum Akudim, and they're after the Tzimtzum. No, the Yesser Spheres Haganut is Lifnei Tzimtzum. So over there, the Rebbe says the emes of Mokeh of the Oyeres, the Yesser Spheres Haganut is Lifnei Tzimtzum. And then he said the next Madrega is the cow. And what he says over there is that in the emes is that in the cow they already come into Protim. Or what he calls over there Protim Atzmiyim. And that's what he brings, the famous Lashon at the Pardes. Well, the Pardes says that the cow is a suim and the kulis. And then he make a cow, really a cow is like a whole series of dots, one following the other. And he says that the Indian of the cow is how all the spheres are really there, but they're in a oif and atzmiyas. Remember, they're like one cow, because look at the already kilo of the spheres by atzmiyus.
What's that Shakim Nicholas?
No, that's what he says, that the spheres are already misgathered from the Yesser Spheres Haganut. The Yesser Spheres Haganut are Lefnei Tzimtzum. After the Tzimtzum is the Kav. In the Kav, those Esses Sfiras HaGanuz are already Mizkale in a protest Kilumatzes. Yeah, but he said they're called Etzem Nekudas or Etzem Giluim, which is like a Nekuda. And the Kav is like a joining together all those Nekudas. And then he says there's another Madrega, that's the Ur, which is Nimsha from the Kav into the Spirit. So over there he seems to make that all one in the Tzinoret Sakitanim and the actual entry into the Keli, that it's like all one in. Look at the way it is in the Kav. Here he's making that for two in. So he's making the Tzinoret Proti one in, and he's making a third in how it's killed mitzamtzei mamish into the Kli.
Every Inyan you can make 3 Inyans.
Huh?
From every Inyan you can make 3 Inyans.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it just depends, where you put the emphasis, as it were.
Rosh Tochsov.
Yeah, it just depends. How do you say, yeah, question to say, huh? What? Well, he talks about the Tzinoros Proti?
No, 3, level of 3.
Huh?
The level of 3.
3s. Oh, yeah. So the Rebbe says that's the way it is over there. Yeah, and here we're talking this way. Vakav b'klal, he says, who ha'oirek achil. V'hainu b'chinas haderech v'atzina hagodem. Shuhu l'mayla adayim b'chinas zischal b'tzeres proti. I mean, that fits in with what's written over there anyway. It is already protim in a way, but protim atzmiyim. And over here, what's what we're saying also. And why is that? That's a great Indian of the Kav. There's the one on the famous the tzir that's made, that the Kav is dovuk be'igul hagodel l'mayla avo enu dovuk bidl hagodel lamata. That's why he's a Kav. Because if he were dovuk from both sides, then he would just be nikel tzirik in the igul hagodel.
You say? If it was Dovuk and Shnehem, what would it be?
What I was you got the eagle hagodel, and the Kav is nimsha from the eagle. He's not nimsha adlik to the other aspect of the eagle. He's only nimsha miya eagle to toich hachol.
But if it was, then
if he was nimsha to the other side, then he'd be just nickel in the eagle. So, Amami says the Rebbe, Ashagam shen is boili. Yeah, v'alkein ein boy adayin is chalkus v'yireis, and that fits in more or less with what's written over there. Because what he says is those nekudas are nekudas atzmiyim she'ein adayin shaytim legilui. Yeah, so therefore it fits in. It's just like you said. It just depends how you come at it. L'fishu dog. Yeah, v'alkein ein boy is chalkus v'yireis. V'agam shen is boili yul shom shakavu p'chinas iskalas haprotim or. That's what we were my Mia Esther feels like it knows it. The Kavasui Mene Kudes, yeah. It'll come to us that they are really there. So he's in his bush, and the Bakav Meir, but he just pshitas to Esther feels like it knows. Really, the Esther feels like it knows have come, but they're mute from the Tim. That's what he said. They don't come, but they're a dill from the Timtum. They even come, but they're a mute. And the dill in the Timtum is like the Ura Chlori, and not that's a whole bigger riches of it. In matter, they come in as a oifen, that they are pshitas atayin, they have in themselves that pshitas of the Esther feels like it knows it. But often, as Firishaboy, heim beginners blima. And then he makes up the whole series of Lashonas. There's a from the Esther feels like a news, and there's Esther feels blima, and there's another Lashon in the Sefer HaYetzirah. Blima fits in nicely. That there is already an identity, a ma as it were, but it's blima. Hagam, sheyesh boy. Oh, and here he comes with another Indian. What does a mamish bomba? V'gam yesh boy miroishim ha'ayin tzeif, or ayin tzeif, like a motion is bo aliyah perikov. So here, one at a time, you got it. You got perikov tes, and you got perik lamed, you got perikov tes lamed, the same. You got perik lamed aleph, now you got perikov ches. Now, what does he say over there in perikov ches? Over there, the Rebbe says, mamish Atova nifla, lo nimtza b'hav mekaymus Indian kazeh. The Rebbe says over there that when we say that there's a Roshimu, from the Tzimtzum, the Kaviyohu, the Ein Sefer was Koidematim, leaves over a Rishon, that's really in two Eifanim. It's not just the Nakuda of the Roshimu, but the Roshimu is a Nakuda Gvulius, Achmis, that he remains in the Chololi Shalela, in the Tzimtzum, and that's the Mocher, the Kelim, the Mocher, the Koach HaGvul, another. The Rebbe said there's also, so there's a Rishon of the Ein Seif. In other words, that just like you Taina, that Ein Dover is Mistalik Legamre, how's it written in the Lashon? Ein Dover Salim Mistalik Legamre, Ein Dover Shebegedusha, how's it written in the Lashon? Ein Dover Shebegedusha Mistalik Legamre, the Salim Legamre, forgot the Lashon. You remember that's all in, and the Beis-21 still remains at all, Arich is Ayin. That's the Gimel Shoit. I have to mention some of the Nitzchis of the Beis-21. And therefore, says the Rebbe pinked, as if you want a tiny, that the Shel Tzimtzum was coiled in itself. The of Agvul, it was Bolua, it was bottle again, and so there's a Rishon of that left over. I know the Rishimo. We have to say that the Bligvu, that was the immediate Agilu, that was the immediate Hashlita, as you might say, Koidematim. And there's also a Rishon from that if Ein Dover Shekavushan Neakara Mim Koimelagamre, and remember the Ein Seif, which was Begola, also is a Rishon. And on the contrary, it's more the emphasis of Musik of Rishon than the Nakuda, the Rishima, because the Nakuda, the Rishima doesn't change. He's just what he is, and the Ur goes away, and he just remains there. Because he was always what he is, just a Nakuda Achmis of Gvul. As they take away the Bli Gvul, he's there. They said, here I am. That's the Rishima. Mashiach, the Eden of a Rishim of the Ein Seif means that the Ein Seif, Amiti, of that Ur, which is the Mamalik Kolam and Tziyas, well, that goes away. It also leaves, as it were, a Rishim. And he says, well, that Rishim is Nimshach the Kav. And that's a Pnimis of the Kav, that even though he's a Kav Mekutzer, and a Kav Metzumtzum, of a Pnimis Yelesha at the Rishim. And everywhere he's got this ability, everywhere he goes, he does two inyanim. First of all, he brings as it were, a specific inyan with him, and he leads eventually to Etzem, inyan Gilui HaGvul, Mitzati Oeres, and at the same time, he does all sorts of inyanim, which are almost hafuchim mizeh. And he does mischabers and iskalalas, all these inyanim. So, you can't have a cake and eat a turul. We can't say beide inyanim mamish, so you can answer with the shleimus ha'atzma. Or yet the shleimus ha'atzma is a behillah, as it were. And this is sicher that's all with the shleimus ha'atzma. He says, begolu, that's mitzad the roishim of the Ur Ein Seif, how it was Ur Ein Seif was now symptom, not the roishim of the rishim. In him, so there's shnei inyanim. There's a rishimu and there's a roishim. That's not Nakudas HaRoshim. A third thing, not Nakudas HaRoshimu, not Nakudas HaRoshim. That's another answer. That's in from Chofas Timur, the beginning of the whole in and out to Atik. The Rebbe's got a whole big, huge footnote at the end of the Echolta. So he's got, so I think it's the biggest footnote from the Rebbe. It's a footnote about this big, a whole page. So he's got on the Nakudas HaRoshim. That's another answer. There's Roshimu and the Nakudas HaRoshim. They got to do with the Keglim. And then the Sinifan Roishim Ha'Ein Seif. Roishim Ha'Ein Seif. And this is Meir B'Pnimis HaKav. Amir said the Rebbe, Mitzad that in him. Gam yesh boy mi Roishim Ha'Ein Seif. Like I'm Perek Kofches. It's got that Roishim. Yeah, from the Ein Seif. And therefore anything which is in the Kav is to a certain extent bottled in the Ein Seif like it was before. The only thing that the Tzimtzum is made, that it's like a Nakuda now. Or it's a Nakuda which is cold inside that oil, and therefore it remains a Nakuda Atzmi, but it's also not an expressed Nakuda Adayim. Because it's still inside that Ein Seif, still as it were, in the atmosphere of the Ein Seif, a bottle to it, and therefore the Nakudas are there, but the Nakudas Atzmi. And in order to get to the inyan of oilers, which are going to be mamshi, into the kelim mamish, then you have to have these tzinoilas ketana. Adefa, says the Rebbe, לפי זה קונטויס, בהכרח, where are we? וזה שקוסו, בבירי הזויה, בהכרח הוא, שיהיה צריך צינוירס כתניה, שעל יודם נמשך המים ביה, it's a הכרח, that there has to be that. דמי הצינויר, הגודל, הגם שזהו צמצום לגבי הנהר, מכל מורים מפני שהמשכוסי הוא מהנהר, אי אפשר שיומשך ממנו בה. In other words, since it comes from the area safe shall lift tzimtzum. And between there's a ratio from that area safe. Yes, shall lift tzimtzum. Therefore, the Rebbe, it's efsha. You can't have bepuyo the etchemin and that oil being nimshar into the kelim, because otherwise the kelim would just be betalim legabitzer. And therefore, therefore you have to have a further tzinoer, another kav, as it were, a kav koton, a tzinoer koton odyoter, but that brings it, and according to the biur here, even in Akura, a further, as it were, tzimtzum, his tzimtzumas, mamish into the kelim. הדוגמה מזה הוא בבחינת הקו שהוא הצינור הנמשך מאר אינסי שלפני הצמצום כמו שכוסו בעץ חיים הרי הוא בבחינת פשיטות עדיין. Even though it's got tzinoir, nekudes, and even though it's made up of nekudes, but it's still the sinian of pshitas adayin, and therefore it's impossible for it to be a moker to ve'ei efshar ha'kelim des ha'sfiras lekabel ha'or me'akav atzmai ki im me'atzinoiros protim she'ein mekoirei ha'oiros ve'al kein akav beklal oisha b'chinas iskalalas ha'sfiras. And therefore the Rebbe said, since it's got in itself of this inyan, of the Roshim of the Ayin Tov, and it's got these atzmias, therefore, on the one hand, it eventually gives off kelim ketani, or rather stenoiros ketanim, which eventually lead to amshocha in the kelim. Exu, it eventually, as it were, is responsible for that. Obviously, on the other hand, there's Ayin in the kelim, this atzmias, upshita shaboy, shemitzad ha-roshim shel ha-Ayin Tov. And Mamela, therefore, he does Ayin, as it were, almost hofchi, that he's also goyim, and he brings about the alkain. He says akav beklal oisa b'chinas iskalalas asfiras. He said, but so in a milgav pnimius. If we go into the inner Indian of Achilas, the pnimius of Achilas, iu shema, diu oirich Achilas, dainu b'chinas akav beklal. So the fizeh comes to is that the Indian of ma is the kav. But we're touching this ma, which is Goyim, the Inyan of the Pnimius of Atzilus, is Ayin of Niskalas, of Beetle, the Yichud Kol Ayin on him, or that's only the Inyan of the Milgov. That's as well the Pnimius of Atzilus, and it's mashma the Pnimius of the Adaka. And what is that? Well, that's this Rishim Adiyin say. So we have to say that that's a Inyan from Bittul Atzmi, but its whole Inyan is Bittul Me'anid, Mitzadi. In other words, at the evidence Inyan of that Ur, how it was Kedem Atzimtzum, it was all Gilui Ayin Seif. It didn't really know anything about Makablim. It didn't know that there was even eventually going to be Makablim, in a way. Maybe it did, but even Masuyam, it's hard to say it did, because it's all in his own Gilead Etzem. And we have to say that Ma, it's got itself two in him. The Mitzad Echad, Ma, it's got that in of the Ayin social of the Atzim. In Mamera, it's in as Beetle Gomo, and they might call Beetle Atzmi only to the Moya. And the Beetle is a Beetle which doesn't know any kunzim whatsoever. However, we have to say that since Sof is the pnimius of the kav, and there's a kavanah in the kav, but the kavanah is eventually to get to Hilamas Biyah. That's ultimately the purpose of it, and ultimately to get to what is the ultimate uftu, the whole bria, to reach Olam Hazeh, la tachtin k'mavu in tanim perek lamed vav, ein ha-kavanah b'Olam Hazeh yonim. The kavanah is talking there about that. And then we have to say that the inyan from the kav, that inyan that the kav is ma, is like two inyanim. That since it its Indian, is bittel, like the Urshel of Neatzimtzum. And it's bittel, and it says its whole Indian is only Gileha, yeah? But it comes down into Atzilus, but even Kozeh, in a certain way, but it uses that type of bittel to do things which are like part of the Kavanah almost. We're going to soon see in a second that it's metaking the whole Indian to you with the bit. So we have to say that there's two amazing inyonim here. That the Indian from Shema, mitzad echad, it's got itself the bittel of that Earl of Natzim, Eino Muvadi Lo Yadam Miklum V'Go Lo Ma'anyeno Tu Klum. What is the, and that was in a way to you. And it was a man, the command. I looked up something the other day in the Tamuz Tzedek, and I saw it. Occasionally you see these inonim, that he says, why did that year that he came to Hillel Hazokin, he said, Tilum Deni Scholar Tera Kulush, and he aimed al Regalachas. Why did he say Regalachas? To say Tilum Deni Scholar Tera Kulush. In a few minutes, I'm busy. Why did Shani so he said that the Indian from Toyu is Regalachas. A goy b'fnei agiyu is he seen from oiras the Toyu. So he said by him it's a from oimed al regel. Everything just stands on one. It's all sort of wobbling on one foot. It's like it collapses, and ultimately it does. And Hillel wanted to save him, and Hillel said to us near, you got to have a half to the reach. The Alter Rebbe zot in Periklam Beis. In other words, that the whole way out of all that is only to be connected with another person. And you are doing great things, and you're a very elevated person. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here dragging back up. Or you're in Olam HaToyu. And Olam HaToyu is 1 foot, and it's all for Ziyach. It's very high in Yonim. Or you're interested in you got to go and forget yourself altogether. Think about the other person. Oh, that was just. Then you'll know what it means to you. Yeah, was so much maktabik, what it means. And then you'll know what is tikkun. Ma's got the beide Sachen. Ma is not just regalachas. It's not just the sort of it's got that bittel in. But it's chaptum. What do we need as our bittel for? We don't need as our bittel for ziyach. We need that bittel to go down into the elam and say, I'm mentioned the world. That's ma. Then we're going to see that ma is the pnimis of the kav, and it's the answer to toihu. I heard he said the same gilifin for the Urshel of Neatzimtzum. What is that bottle? It doesn't know anything. It's all everything. No. It's got that bittel, but it's using that bittel to bring to the ultimate kav.
Not it on bittel and toe.
That's what I'm saying. My homework does that exactly like it. I put in Torah that the bittel in two was too big. Too much bittel. Yeah, too much bittel. That was then. That wasn't a problem. It's bittel only for the sake of bittel. The Bnei Arim, Mata Omeli, about the Bnei Arim, Ma Pirush Bnei Arim. They were bittel for the sake of bittel. They wanted to be bottled. They wanted to be bottled. They have Nishmas with God. They knew bottle. Shem Ma assisted all that. Mamish Akko, or we use it to make the world bottle. Use it to make the world a place.
Where do you see Bittul Ba'esav? Bittul Ba'esav?
Bittul Ba'esav? Yeah. Eventually you have Bittul Ba'esav. The whole trouble with the Esav was Bittul. It's a very high Bittul. That's what the Esav saw in it. That's what Yitzhak saw in Esav. It was all fuzzy here. It was all fuzzy. That's why what happened to it. What happened to it? Haliteini. You understand? It was all fuzzy. It was all fuzzy. The Rebbe said that was there. The Rebbe said that was once upon a time. And now he said if you would have talked to Esav the Emerson way, he would listen to you. Because he knows now what is the Olam Kavanah. Kommen again the Olam Shagoyim. We know who they are. And they verdream pink fakir. They verdream pink the fakir. And the world is in such a terrible matter because nobody wants to listen to Melech HaMashiach. And what happens is they come back to what Melech HaMashiach. Look at this whole business with me, Yehudi. Every now and then in the so-called Haredi press, you see what they say, yeah, me, Yehudi. Come on. The Rebbe was married for years ago. The Rebbe told him. Now, And now they see what's the heroes to see. And the Rebbe told them about the precaution. They're going to have to wake up, but they're going to wake up too late.
They're going to
wake up.
Where do you want from?
So we're going to the Gula Shlema. We don't have to worry about them anymore because we're going to the Gula Shlema. Take me out, mommy. Oh yeah. That's what we're going to learn in the next couple of chapters.
Stay tuned.
Shema's got both. He's got the bittel of Oreches. But we use that bittel for purpose. All right, so let's have a quick word with the